Hi, this is Mike making my video to add to my collection. Today is the 4th of April 2025 and it's 4:20 a.m. So anyway, I'm making this video to add to my collection and basically talk about, manifestation in all its forms. Uh, there really is not really any other process that's going to be effective other than this one. Um, this one here is, it's like seek until you find what you're looking for. And then when you find it, basically when you're kind of in that environment, you're going to be perplexed when you find it. You're going to be disturbed. You're going to have a lot of anxiety. And then with focus after you find it, basically a period of time that goes by. Then what you do is usually you keep observing that thing. When you have an effect on it by observing it, and then what happens is the wave function gets collapsed, and basically then you'll be astonished. Once miracle that's hidden, gets revealed to you. The windows of heaven open up, your eyes are opened, and it pours down a blessing so big you can't contain it. So then you'll be astonished when you see it, and then, or even hear it, so you have eyes to see and ears to hear. And then you'll marvel, you'll be astonished, you'll marvel. And then you'll rule over all, means that you'll basically you have conquered the world. You'll have evidence that you conquered the world. So anyway, these manifestations can come in the form of a person, place, or thing. A place you want to go to, or you go there. Your opportunity, a door opens, knock, ask and be given to you, seek and you will find, and knock and be open to you. Or it could be a person, place, or thing of some type. So anyway, there's that, and then it could be money or whatever, a bit of knowledge, pearl of wisdom, and so anyway, that's really what happens. That's really the process that's involved, those 4 steps, and I've manifested almost everything I've ever wanted in life. I just recently got me a very nice computer, gaming computer, and I've been thinking about replacing the one I've had. And then it just so happens I've had the money all along, and then I got me a $3,000 gaming computer, for basically $350. So, basically 10 cents on the dollar. And, not to mention, I've got that, and then I've got other things too, So, it's amazing, how things present themselves, and the process that's involved in that. So anyway, like I said, I've had all kinds of education, I've had all kinds of property, basically all kinds of girlfriends, um, all kinds of experiences, all kinds of miracles that took place that I performed. And, basically, uh, I worked on houses, I worked on cars, I worked on computers, fixed things, worked with plastic, wood, and metal in factories, worked in retail, warehouse work, auto mechanics and auto body. I went to school for that, and then basically ended up, the craziest thing, the perfect career came along, where I was able to work on cars, at a factory. I worked at dealerships and stuff, but then I ended up getting a job at Ford Motor Company, and I was able to work there. And, basically all the money I've made, here and there, and, by basically flipping cars, I had a car lot, and, businesses and stuff. After all that was done, basically, and of course the money I make now in retirement, uh, was probably upward, right around $3 million. And then I wished for $50 million one time, and then I got it. It was a banknote, from a Regsmark, but it said $50 million. It was kind of the funniest thing is I got the 50 million, but it was worthless, But I did have it, and of course, I got a stamp collection that's worth a fortune, but yeah, I can't sell it to anybody. Nobody wants it. Um, but I get good quality things. I get nice pieces of merchandise, and like I said, I've owned almost everything there is to own. It became everything there is to become. On all the archetypes, I became like Adam was before the fall, and I've had the fall before. It, it wasn't fun, but basically it was like the fall of Sophia. Basically they talk about where your subconscious mind, or basically your conscious mind, either or, basically, maybe the two of them, pretty much leave the bridal chamber. It's talking about your mind. That's when you lose your mind, and when that happens, you feel empty and devoid of any kind of feelings or sensations or anything. So yeah, it's not a fun thing to have, but I've done it and I recovered, and now I just live a simple life. I don't do a whole lot. I just basically buy things and collect things and tinker with things, and then I basically, I make my videos, and you know, watch YouTube videos, make movie, or yeah, watch movies, and I make videos and stuff, and then basically, I fix things here and there, and then I basically play video games, and I got my Meta Quest, and whatever else I have. So basically that's all there is to it. I live a simple life. I don't do a whole lot. I don't have a girlfriend because I don't want to have a lion that I got to feed meat to. You buy a lion, you're gonna have to start feeding it meat, and then there's that, and then you got, let's say, you buy a house, you're buying a big dinosaur, something that's beyond your, bigger than your eyes, bigger than your budget, and you buy something like that, and then of course, you have that, and then of course you buy a car, and of course new cars nowadays. I'm never gonna buy a new car ever again, regardless of how much money I have. And why buy new and slightly used will do with everything, and then you buy a car, or you have multiple cars. You have things that you got to keep maintenance on, and then things that depreciate, and then you have that. So you got between your car, your house, and of course your relationships. You have friends. They're going to require things all the time, and they're always trying to get one over on you, and you find out that your friends and your family can become enemies. So I gave up on everything, my family, my friends, relationships. I don't go to college anymore. Student loans are outrageous. And, I don't have a house and I don't have a new car. I have a modest car or a truck and it works fine. And, I have all that and I don't ever buy anything new. So you basically cut all those things out of your budget. I don't smoke regular cigarettes. I cut my own hair. I eat food out of a can. I buy used clothing, and I buy used merchandise. And I basically, I pay attention to the small things. Sometimes the small things in life, are really all you really need to pay attention to. Uh, you take care of your own backyard and everything will be fine. And, you basically appreciate everything you have. You be content. That's really what that means. You're content with the situation that you're in. You're content with your place in life. And then when you do that, when you show outwardly that you're content with everything, that's actually kind of a way of being happy. It's actually a way of, uh, you know, when you find out that everything that you have is fine, and you don't worry about tomorrow, it takes care of itself. And you don't worry, and then you don't worry about what you eat, drink, or wear. You know, basically, you don't worry about fancy clothes. You don't worry about fancy food. You don't drink alcohol, and you just basically live a simple life, and it's modest. And then you're practical, rational, realistic, and logical. And you know, you do all that stuff, so then you're just basically modest. And then you know, you'll find out that being content uh, is actually a state of mind, and it's not euphoric. I mean, that does happen, you know, but it's fleeting. And you know, what goes up does come down. This world and the one above it pass away. I mean, this state of mind and the one above it pass away. You know, they no longer exist as separate states. But then, you know, the upper becomes like the lower. And, you know, they literally do pass away. I mean, everything around us is an illusion. Uh, People around me are an illusion. All the merchandise, all the things I see, all the things I can touch are an illusion. It's all vanity. It's chasing after the wind, you know. So I really wouldn't be in a position to hurt anybody or do anything really bad to somebody to have money. You know, that's really something I won't do. And you know, when I do take stuff, you know, I do shoplift from time to time, but you know, it's only take what I really need, and I don't take more than I need. And like I say, you know, it's like, uh, you know, I'm basically, if you think about it, you know, I'm just basically a disciple. You know, I basically follow Jesus, but Buddha's got some good stuff. Muhammad's got some good stuff. Uh, Hare Krishna has some good stuff, you know, and you know, I have all those things, and then basically, uh, you know, there really isn't a whole lot more. I don't think there's any more possibilities as far as miracles are concerned. I think I've exhausted all that stuff. I don't think it's like lightning striking twice. You know, the genie's been let out of the bottle. Once the genie gets out, you know, you can't really put it back in. There's no going back to gold and collecting $200. My life is so much different than everybody else's. That's why I really don't have that many friends or family. And the reason being is that, you know, I just don't share the same realities. And, you know, people don't really understand me. And Jesus said, I'll choose one out of 1,000, two out of 10,000. You know, that's how rare it is to be chosen, you know. But, you know, like I say, when your eyes become opened, you know, you see things that are just amazing, that'll blow you away. And the thing is, you have to really go through these things. And it's not something that happens off the fly, you know. It takes many years of preparation. And then you basically live your, you know, your destiny instead of having your fate. So anyway, that's all I really have to say. I can't really think of anything else. Uh, you know, so anyhow, have a nice day.